Small Fry by Lisa Brennan Jobs. A memoir. As clear-eyed, amusing, honest, unsentimental, and sad as any memoir I've read in years. No other book or film has captured Steve Jobs as distinctly as this one has. Philip Lopape. Thorndike Press, part of Gale and Cengage Company. Copyright 2018 for someone named Bill. Third fisherman, master. I marvel how the fishes live in the sea. First fisherman, why, as men do, a land, the great ones eat up the little ones. I can compare our rich misers to nothing so fitly as to a whale. A plays and tumbles, driving the poor fry before him, and at last devours them all at a mouthful. Such whales have I heard on Oath land, who never leave gapping till they've swallowed the whole parish church steeple bells and all. Shakespeare. Persicles. It was a curious experience to be the unrecognized source of this public attraction, and to be standing in the sleet. It made one feel like a phantom presence. Saul Bellow, Humboldt's gift. "3 months before he died, I began to steal things from my father's house. I wandered around barefoot and slipped objects into my pockets. I took blush, toothpaste, 2 chipped finger bowls in celadon blue, and a bottle of nail polish. A pair of worn patent leather ballet slippers, 4 faded white pillowcases, the color of an old teeth. After stealing each item, I felt sated. I promised myself that this would be the last time. But soon the urge to take something else would arrive again, like thirst. I tiptoed into my father's room, careful to step over the creaky floorboard at the entrance. This room had been his study, when he could still climb the stairs, but he slept here now. It was cluttered with books and mail and bottles of medicine, glass apples, wooden apples, awards, and magazines, and stacks of papers. There were framed prints by Hazu of twilight and sunset at temples. A patch of pink light stretched out on a wall beside him. He was propped up in bed, wearing shorts. His legs were bare and thin as arms, bent up like grasshoppers. "Hey, Liz," he said. Segyu Rinpoche stood beside him. He'd been around recently when I came to visit. A short Brazilian man with sparkling brown eyes, and Rinpoche was a Buddhist monk with a scratchy voice who wore brown robes over a round belly. We called him by his title. Tibetan holy men were sometimes born in the West now, in places like Brazil. To me, he didn't seem holy. He wasn't distant or inscrutable. Near us, a black canvas bag of nutrients hummed with a motor and a pump, the tube disappearing somewhere under my father's sheets. "It's a good idea to touch his feet," Rinpoche said, putting his hands around my father's foot on the bed, like this. I didn't know if the foot touching was supposed to be for my father, or for me, or for both of us. "Okay," I said. I took his other foot in its thick sock, even though it was strange watching my father's face, because he because when he winced in pain or anger, it looked similar to when he started to smile. "That feels good," my father said, closing his eyes. I glanced at the chest of drawers beside him and at the shelves on the other side of the room for objects I wanted, even though I knew I wouldn't dare steal something right in front of him. While he slept, I wandered through the house, looking for I didn't know what. A nurse sat on the couch in the living room, her hands on her lap, listening for my father to call out for help. The house was quiet, the sounds muffled. The white-painted brick walls were dimpled like cushions. The terracotta floor was cool on my feet, except in places where the sun had warmed it to the temperature of skin. In the cabinet of the half-bath near the kitchen, where there used to be a tattered copy of the Bhagavad Gita, I found a bottle of expensive rose facial mist, with the door closed. The lights out, sitting on the toilet seat, I sprayed it up into the air and closed my eyes. The mist fell around me, cool and holy, as in a forest or an old stone church. There was also a silver tube of lip gloss with a brush at one end and a twisting mechanism at the other that released liquid into the center of the brush. I had to have it. I stuffed the lip gloss into my pocket to take back to the one-bedroom apartment in Greenwich Village that I shared with my boyfriend, where I knew as much as I have ever known anything, that this tube of lip gloss would complete my life. Between avoiding the housekeeper, my brother and sisters, and my stepmother around the house so I wouldn't be caught stealing things or hurt when they didn't acknowledge me or reply to my hellos, and spraying myself in the darkened bathroom to feel less like I was disappearing, because inside the falling mist I had a sense of having an outline again. Making efforts to see my sick father in his room began to feel like a burden, a nuisance. For the past year, I'd visited for a weekend every other month or so. I'd given up on the possibility of a grand reconciliation, the kind in movies, but I kept coming anyway. In between visits, I saw my father all around New York. I saw him sitting in a movie theater, the exact curve of his neck to jaw to cheekbone. I saw him as I ran along the Hudson River. In winter, sitting on the bench, looking at the docked boats, and on my subway ride to work, walking away on the platform through the crowd. Thin men, olive-skinned, fine-fingered, slim-wristed, stubble-bearded, who, at certain angles, looked just like him. Each time I had to get closer to check. To my heart in my throat, even though I knew it could not possibly be him, because he was sick in bed in California. Before this, during years in which we hardly spoke, I'd seen his picture everywhere. Seeing the pictures gave me a strange zing. The feeling was similar to catching a glimpse of myself in a mirror across a room and thinking it was someone else, then realizing it was my own face. There he was, peering out from magazines and newspapers and screens in whatever city I was in. That is my father, and no one knows, but it's true. Before I said goodbye, I went to the bathroom to mist one more time. The spray was natural, which meant that over the course of a few minutes, it no longer smelled sharp, like roses, but fetid and stinky and like a swamp. Although I didn't realize it at the time, as I came into his room, he was getting into a standing position. I watched him gather both his legs in one arm, twisting himself 90 degrees by pushing against the headboard with the other arm, and then use both arms to hoist his own legs over the edge of the bed and onto the floor. When we hugged, I could feel his vertebrae, his ribs, He smelled musty, like medicine's sweat. I'll be back soon, I said. We detached, and I started walking away. Liz? Yeah. You smelled like a toilet. Smell.